Hello and welcome to episode 1, episode 2, whatever. I don't even know what episode this is, but I've got a lot to catch you up on. Thank you for tuning in today. Word of warning, that was worded so weirdly. Let me just pull up something on my laptop for a second. Okay, so just letting you know, this will most likely go on for a little while. So get comfy, go grab your bubble tea, go grab your tea if that's more your thing, or coffee. No offense. I'm kidding. I just don't drink coffee myself, but if that's your thing, that's your thing. Whatever floats your boat, right? So today I really just wanted to preface this with I tried and I will try better and I'm going to do better. So I initially started off this series intending for it to be weekly. Very soon realized that, well, things like weekly is a little bit too much in terms of like updating what's going on in the businesses, because it kind of feels like week to week I was repeating myself, but also being just me and being just a solo team of one, it was very hard to keep up with the workload and I severely underestimated it. So that is my bad, but I am letting you know that you can expect these once a month, minimum once a month. They're not going to be fully polished, and that is the point of this series. Is I want to showcase literally the journey, so you'll see even the evolution of like these videos from like right now I'm in the kitchen, by the way, and also I moved last week from Perth to Queensland, so I'm in a completely new environment. I don't have my normal fancy lighting equipment. I'm literally filming with my phone, and I've got like a notepad in front of me and my laptop in front here, and I'm literally just going to speak from the heart, because this series was intended to pull the curtains back on what it looks like scaling beyond 7 figures. And I am in the phase of my business journey where everything is like being pushed right now, like my capacity to deal with things, my leadership, my emotions, my emotional intelligence, my to-do list. Like, I don't like the people who are watching this and not just listening. I'm gonna show you, this was my to-do list for yesterday, and like there was 17 items that I had just managed to like number out, but I didn't, there were like items under items. So right now, like even that is being pushed, my capacity to do things and really testing that discipline muscle. And it's really interesting because I moved in with my friend Mel, who's also my business partner for my ecom business, and we were talking about how my life right now looks so different to hers, but we're technically in the same season of hustle. And that's actually something, I'm gonna write this down right now. Hustle looks different for everyone, because that's something I wanted to dive into. Bear with me as I write this down. That is something I wanted to dive into because it's something I've been reflecting in a lot, and you will know this, but when you change up your environment, it's like you become a new person. Like you have a new sense of like purpose, a renewed like fire to get up in the morning and to do all of these things. And I just wanted to I guess open up the floor, not feel like I have to play in this catch-up energy of like, oh my gosh, I have to fill you in with every single little detail that happened. Like, this is a continuous series, and whatever holes I don't fill in today, that was weird. Whatever gaps in the timeline that I don't get to today, I'm sure I'll touch on it in the future, because I do believe every moment happens for a reason, and if it's important enough for me to share, it will come up at some point. So that in and of itself took a lot of pressure off of me to be like even in preparation for this episode, I'll be honest with you, I did not want to film this because I was like, I have to go through 3 months worth of notes, because I keep a daily tab of like what I do every day. I have to go through 3 months of notes, timeline it, make sure that it makes logical sense. And I was just creating all of these barriers to to actually getting it done. And for me right now, it's more important that I get this done than to try and get it done perfectly or to do all of this. And it's like, yeah, that's actually the first point I wanted to start off with is the resistance that we feel to doing things sometimes actually starts with like what expectations, what constraints we've put around like how that thing should be. And I'm not saying that you should drop the standard every single time, but there's also like seasons where you have to trust yourself that you're like, I've got myself on the fly. I don't need to be fully prepared because unfortunately or fortunately, just this is just a beautiful thing about life. You're not going to be able to prepare for every single moment. You're not going to be able to prepare like, you know, your notes, and you're not going to be able to gather your thoughts beforehand. And it's like, who are you in that moment? Do you still back yourself? Do you still trust yourself to be able to deliver for your people? And also, what kind of relationship are you cultivating with your community? And this is something I really thought about. Like, I don't want to cultivate a relationship with my community where they only see me as a leader if I show up perfectly, because like truth of the matter is I am far from being perfect. I have my days where like this episode, like just for one example, this episode took way too long to come out, but like I want to show what it actually looks like to be vulnerable in leadership, to actually share, hey, you come to me and share your hardships. I'm not just this person up here sitting on a pedestal, and that's funny because I'm sitting on a stool today, but I'm not just this person sitting on a pedestal who's like, I can see you in your pain, I can see you in your struggles, but I'm better. Like, no, oftentimes what really, really surprises me is that what I've gone through just very recently, or what I am going through currently in the seasons of my life, that's actually mirrored and reflected in like my clients' lives and my clients' journey. So that's really, really interesting. Like just a reflection, nice and deep to start off with. But I'll start with saying like I've been sick. We got here and I intended to like launch into this busy bee mode, get all of these things done, but life and my body had other plans for me, and it was like, you need to chill out. You literally uprooted your life in the last week, moved across the country. We were on the road for 6 whole days. I've got a whole other story on that. If you want to know parts of the story, head over to my TikTok, because I've shared just like the last few days which are just so stressful. But yeah, like I moved, I got sick. I didn't really want to be doing this because I was like, I have to do the timeline. I have to make sure that I can set up like the perfect sound system, the lighting system. And I was just putting so many conditions around what it took for me to show up. And when you've got so many conditions and when you are in a season of pushing, they just don't mesh. It's like, when you're in a season of pushing, it actually matters that like, yes, you think strategically about the moves that you're making and like why you're making them, and keep in mind the long term, which I'm going to come back to this. It's also just more important to keep going, right? Like, you're not in a season of reflection for a reason. You're not in a season of thinking out your moves, like 10,000 moves ahead of like 10,000 moves in advance. You're in this pushing season for a reason, and I had to remind myself this, and I'm also reminding you because I know June, it's almost a new financial year, especially in Australia. People are going to be feeling like this renewed sense of like, let's go again. It's that mid-year like rejuvenation feeling. And I even experienced it when I was in the health and fitness niche. A lot of my clients, like, Harley just came in. So she's this new dog that I'm living with at the moment. She's Mel's dog. She's so cute. Anyway, so there's like this renewed sense of like passion and motivation and thing like mid-year, because it's almost like there's a clean slate, and like you don't want to rely on external motivation, external momentum to push you forwards in business. But if you've got it, like, why not use it? Why not use that to your advantage? And so this is me showing up as I am, being vulnerable. I've got a lot to share today, just in terms of like what I've been going through personally. It's been a whole thing. So make sure you've got your drink of choice ready. Hopefully it's a bubble tea. If not, that's okay. It's okay. Also, Mel's never tried bubble tea in her life, and also my other friend Mina, I'm meeting her for the first time. I met her online, but I'm meeting her for the first time tomorrow because we're heading down to the Gold Coast, and I'm so excited. But both of them, 2 of my closest friends in my life right now, I've never tried bubble tea and it blows my mind, but also I realize it's a very niche thing, but I also thought that it was like a new thing. But anyway, so my computer is also screaming at me that it needs more space. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's not stress, we can deal with that. And as you can see, there are things going on in the background. There's my computer yelling at me and all of these things. So whatever we get done today, we get done. And I just want to thank you for bearing with me. And when this comes out, like, if you take anything away from this, is that just do the thing anyway, do it to the best of your capacity, because every 3 to 4 months you're going to come back and revisit that anyway. And that's how you actually upgrade things in life, is not through trying to do everything well at once and try to improve everything. It's actually just you focus on one thing at a time. Okay, so to get into the nitty gritty, what has been going on, and you might actually want to sign up for the email list, because I'm going to dive into more of the strategic side and like what I actually navigated things, thoughts and all of that, just so you can have a nice little summary here. And then if you wish to dive in deeper with me and come along for this journey, you have another place to do so. And it's like you can actually go back and look at points of like, okay, so this is what she's doing for her ecom, this is all of this, and so there's like little markers there. But to summarize, to give you like a brief overview, so in the ecom business, very exciting developments. We have fully tested, I think, 2 or 3 products up until this moment, but like 20 plus creatives, to be honest. And like, it's my thing in this ecom business is really the numbers, and so that has been the exciting time. But it's also very stressful, because if you understand, ads is not like, you can lose money so quickly and so easily if you don't stay on top of things and if you don't actually know what to look for. And this actually translates to not just like inside an ecom business, but in a coaching business, like or like a service or any other traditional business. I've had people come to me and ask me like, I want to scale this using ads. And I think the general consensus or the notion is that ads are this magical fix to like a lead problem or to like a sales problem, when ads, like, I truly believe, should be validated first. Like, before you pour money into ads, they should be validated organically first. And that's actually what we did with ecom. This is a strategy. As much as we wanted to jump straight into pouring money into ads and to just test, you have to be a bit more strategic about it, especially when the cash flow, like with this business, we very deliberately made it so that we're not taking away resources from other businesses to fund this business, because that's a lesson I learned for the other one, and we're going to get to it. But it's really important to make sure that a business can be profitable on its own, and that it can stand on its own without like bleeding money, especially in the online space where you have no overheads essentially. Like, if you're not running a profitable business, and if it can't be profitable by itself, there's really no point in running that as your first business. That's my opinion. So we've been testing a lot of creatives, and we're finally getting to a stage where we're scaling with a certain strategy. So the strategy that we're scaling with right now is called a bid cap strategy. And today is actually the first day of running that, because before we had just been testing like creatives upon creatives and upon creatives. And now we've found a winning creative, and then that's what we're up to. I'll go a lot more into depth in this, like what bid cap strategy actually is, inside of the newsletter, so make sure that you sign up there if you are curious. Now, a logical transition from this business is into the cleaning business, and I wanted to talk about a big mess up that I made. I've kind of alluded to it on my socials, but this is big, and I can't, like, I'm actually a little bit scared sharing this, but this is what vulnerable leadership is about, and true leadership is about. Like, I messed up, guys. For the last 6 months, I've been funding this business out of pocket pretty much, because one of our biggest clients refused, or like just got something happen. I'm not going to give too many like intimate details because we're still dealing with it right now, but something got mixed up in their system, in our system, somewhere in the universe, and we just weren't paid for the last 6 months. And so there was a lot of ego involved in this. I'm going to share snippets of this in the email because it will take, like, my computer screaming at me. And so I'd rather get this done and then give you a little bit of a teaser, and then you can come into the newsletter if you want. But pretty much there was a lot of ego, and I let that cloud my judgment to the point where I was bleeding money, and I just let it happen because of my ego, because it was my family, and because it was my friend, and because I didn't want to come across a certain way, and like all of these things. And long story short, like, yeah, we're in a bit of a pickle right now with that business. It's kind of like at a sink or swim stage of scaling. I've got full confidence in my team that we will swim, but there's really a lot of trust required there. And that's why with the ecom business, I've learned not to pull resources from other spaces, because that's just not a good idea. The business needs to stand on its own merit. And yeah, like, I think also as business owners, like, depending on your relationship with money, you might be okay with money being a certain way, like personally, but when it comes to business, you have to look at it objectively. Are your incoming, is your revenue actually covering your expenses? All ego aside, like all personal things aside, all of like this self-trust aside, because I know you're capable, I know you've got this, and I know that you believe you've got your back. But all of that aside, let's take emotions, let's take ourselves out of the business and consider it like a little box and go, what does this business need? Is it actually thriving? Or, because there's a difference between you thriving and the business thriving, and you really have to consider the business by itself. I cannot stress this enough. Take the emotions out of business, because I'm 6 figures into out of pocket essentially. And there's a whole thing going on there, but like, this never would have happened if I didn't let my personal views cloud it. But I had to learn this to get to this point. But also I'm grateful that it happened, because it has pushed me into a lot of motion with this business, with my business. So this business is like, I'm working on a few secret projects at the moment. There's like an agency venture sort of coming up. It's like an agency, also not. So I'm very excited to share it. It's coming out July, and we're going to come full force. And it just excites me so much, the direction that we're taking with that. And I've also been teasing little things on my stories. Basically, I'm opening up like just the door and inviting up to 5 people into my private consulting space. And that's been really, really exciting, because I've wanted to do like a public facing launch for the longest time, but just haven't. And there are a few things that have gone into that decision. One of them being, and this is where we're going to get into the long-term vision. My long-term vision for my community, for my personal brand, is so much bigger than just a coaching or a consulting business. When I say I want to build a legacy, I want to build a freaking legacy. And like, I don't want to tap into my brand equity or my personal brand equity too early, because I know that what I'm going to be asking of my community later on is far greater than the little returns that I could get right now by tapping into it and asking for cash and selling all of that. But you have to recognize that sometimes, like, one of my mentors said this very perfectly, one of my mentors said this perfectly, and it's that, how will you know that you're going in the right direction if you don't do temperature checks? So I'm going to start doing little temperature checks in the next few months, every few months. Not like, I'm still going to be providing tons of value upfront and leading with heart and leading with like genuinely wanting to share what I'm doing, and like having my social media as being like a up to date, like what's working on the ground right now handbook for like different business owners and all of that. But I can't let my long-term vision hold me back from actually taking the action right now, because I actually need to do temperature checks, make sure that I'm building my personal brand, because you can think that you're doing the right things, but unless you actually get feedback from your market, from your community, you don't know that for sure. So that's what's coming up. You'll see like little things being dropped, and like you're hearing it firsthand, but I've got basically a group experience coming up that I'm very excited to share. And also now I've opened up like the private consulting space. And then there's something else that's coming. Think like, it is so much more than a program. This is literally like the equivalent of going to uni, and I'm gonna leave it at that. But I'm very excited to bring it out, and yeah, just like, I think this is so needed because there's just been so long, like, and I'll tell you the reason why I've been so intentionally creating these offers, because I don't just want to create offers that people will buy and not get anything out of. I'd rather they not buy and keep their money and do whatever it is. Obviously, there's only so much of their journey that you can control. Like, you can't even really control their journey. But like, your offer, how it's presented to the market, how the market receives it, and actually the results that you get matter so much to your personal brand and to your reputation in the long term, that I think 99% of people need to put more intention and thought into how, like, the delivery of the programs, to make sure that there are enough touch points that people can actually get an outcome. Whatever that outcome looks like, you can't control that outcome for them, because obviously that's going to be dependent on the thing, but they have to feel like they've gotten something out of it, and you actually have to be able to facilitate that process of a transformation through it, so that it's like, because that stuff matters. Like, you know, like when you look at Harvard, they've got such a high, like such a small acceptance rate for this exact reason, because they know that their graduates are going to be the ambassadors for their brand, for their legacy. And so they'd rather turn down money. Like, imagine how much money they would make if they just accepted everyone, but also think about how much more they're able to charge because of like the exclusivity of it all. But it's like, your program reputation matters. It matters for your positioning in your market. It matters for your credibility, for your authority, but it also matters from a relationship standpoint. If someone's invested into you, like, for it to be a fair exchange, they need to get something out of it. That could be 2 months down the road from purchasing. That could be as soon as you open up the space. That could be 2 years down the road. But you have to make sure that it's set up in the way that whenever they're ready to start, whenever they look at it, they actually get the outcome. And that they, not only that, I actually think people need to put more care into making it so that people actually want to be in the program, like beyond the excitement of investing in new things, because I know that you've invested in things before where you've bought it and you've never looked at it again. And that's because the promise that this program or that this thing had just wasn't big enough for it to entice you to actually even start taking action. And I believe this is what I am about, and I'm so passionate and I'm so excited to bring this to the space. People, you should make your offers so good that not only do they get results for your clients, for the people that go through it, but it should be so good that people can't wait to start it. People can't wait to get their hands into it. And it's like, you don't have to check up on them to say, hey, have you done this module? They're like, oh my gosh, when's the next module? When's the next thing? When's the next thing? Like, you want to make them excited to be a part of the experience, not just to have invested in it, because a lot of people do that. And I don't like, I saw this ridiculous statistic, which is like only like 3% of people or something like that get through an entire program. Or like, okay, it's not 3%. I need to look up that statistic, but I'm going to keep a note. Look up statistic for finishing courses. I think we actually need to have more care and like spend a little bit more time and put more attention into making it enticing, making your offer enticing enough that people not only get results and want to be in, but actually can't wait to start and do all of the things that are required to get the action. Like, imagine creating something so good that people can't wait to do it, and then you know that through doing it, I said that in a weird way, but you know that through doing it, they're going to get the results. Like, why aren't we doing this? Why isn't this the standard? Why isn't this the norm? And this is the stuff that I think about, and that's why I haven't just put up stuff for the sake of putting up stuff, and I've been doing so many back-end stuff and just free stuff because I care about this so much that, like, if I'm going to put my name to something that people are going to pay, you best bet I've given it everything that I can to make sure that they not only want want to start it, that they not only want to go through it, but they actually get something out of it towards the end. So that is that. Now, I'm just going to read through my notes. Yeah. So, now I want you to know that this was not an overnight process. Like, my thought process today looks very different to what it was even just 3 months ago. And so you can only get to this point, though, I believe, through actually just taking action and refining and just starting and just figuring out what it is that you want. And the important thing is to not get in the noise of what everyone else is doing. Because if I just listen to everybody else, I would just put out an offer for the sake of putting out an offer and then letting that offer grow. But it's like, no, can we actually put a little bit more intentionality into our first few offers, because they are the make or break for your brand. Now, I want to talk about the last thing before we hop off is, I'll touch on a little bit about personally what's going on. I just can't talk too much because we're still going through it. So like there's court stuff and there's legal stuff in that. But yeah, so there's a lot of family stuff, a lot of legal stuff. When I can share, I will share more. It's just that right now I physically can't, because obviously this is also going to a public platform. So now, last thing I'm going to talk on is that hustle looks different for everyone. So this was really highlighted to me when I moved in with Mel, because we're both in hustle seasons for our life. She's doing amazingly in her hypnotherapy business, and also now e-com is ramping up and we're all in the process of scaling. But something that I've seen her do, which I admire so much, is she still takes so much time for herself. She's going out and taking herself out on dates. She's like spending time with friends. She's got the weekend off, and she reflected something to me, which is like, my life right now just looks like I wake up, I work, I sleep, and I eat. And whilst I think there's no right or wrong way to hustle, it really made me question, like, is this actually what I want to do? Like, because we can convince ourselves that we're happy doing what we're doing, when really it's just us being comfortable with the current lifestyle that we have, and that any change outside of that is not, like, it's too tiring to actually go through. So it really made me reflect and think about, like, okay, what if I just had fun, but also didn't have constraints on what the fun needed to be? Because I very much was like, I can have fun within my business. So what that looked like was, my version of fun was like upskilling, looking at courses and looking at all of these things. And whilst that contributes to my success so much, I just know that even just being in this environment, looking into pouring into myself and my habits and my hobbies is going to be so beneficial. And I'm just so grateful to have learned that lesson and to be shown that, because yeah, you can still hustle, but you can still take time for yourself. And that looks different for different seasons and even for different people. But you really can fall into a route of thinking okay, well, business is fun, or what I'm doing is fun. And so since I'm already having fun in this area of my life, I don't need to have fun in other areas of my life. And that for me, it wasn't until I moved in with Mel that I realized that was something I was missing. Now, I probably won't take myself out as much as she does, but that's perfect, because we're also two different human beings, and also me taking myself out is going to look different to how she does it. So whilst you might find yourself going, ooh, this kind of applies to me, where else am I not allowing myself to have fun? Know that it's allowed to look different for you as well, and and how it looks different to me. For example, I probably would only take myself out once or twice a week, whereas she always does something for herself every single day, and that's perfect. Different people have different capacities, and it's really just about you looking at, I guess, your cup and going, how full is it? Am I actually having fun? And just being brutally honest with yourself. And I feel like this whole thing has just been centered around integrity and honesty and all of these things. And I'm so excited to actually type out this newsletter, type out the accompanying email that will go with this, because there's so much that I've processed through, and the people on my email list are going to get it. And I'll kind of also talk through what I think about when I go through my offers, when I'm planning out my offers and doing all of that. And I'll dive into the strategy of the e-com. But for now, my laptop is screaming at me, so I will love you and leave you. Thank you so much for spending today with me. It has been 30 minutes of me just like saying whatever it is that I want, and I know that there's no pressure. Like you don't know what else is going on in my life, right? For all you know, this is all that's like going on, and that's also a permission slip for you. Like, what standards are you setting for yourself? Not just like, I wouldn't call it standards, but what rules are you saying that you must follow, or what things must you do before you do X, Y, and Z? Because that's really important, because usually like that thing that you actually need to do is more important than all the other rules around it. So let me leave you with that. I hope you got something out of this today. And if you want, like, just DM me on Instagram, send me your email, flick me through, and I'll add you to the list so that you can get the accompanying version of this episode. But thank you so much for spending time with me today. I am gonna go drink some water because I'm still a little bit sick and I can feel my throat just like closing up a little bit. But anyway, thank you for hanging with me today, and I will catch you on the flippity flip. Bye.